Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we're talking about a moment in the service experience that often gets overlooked but is absolutely critical, the checkout process. To help us unpack this topic, we have Julie with us. Julie, thanks for joining today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Great to see you both.
Julie Douglas, CEO and sales lady extraordinaire from Dealer Pay. Uh, Julie, as always, let's start with the big picture. You're great at defining that for us. Why is the checkout process so important in the service experience?
Well, as I describe it to dealers when I talk to them about payments, it's the last experience. So they're not necessarily focusing on, the write up, the MPA, the other processes. It all comes together at that final moment, which is when they're making payment. So that is where, if there was friction, could potentially ruin the whole experience. So we definitely don't want that.
Fascinating stuff. And tell us a little bit more about why speed is so important to this process as well.
Sure. Consumers today, they want everything fast, convenient, and frictionless. And that experience is huge for being able to retain customers at the dealership. So, dealerships average about 1.5 to 2.5 hours, while many aftermarket visits are completed in under an hour. So, the checkout, the patience for that consumer is already gone. So a slow or unclear process can undo a really great visit.
And
Julie, that makes so much sense. And, beyond speed, is there a psychological element to this as well?
Sure. I mean, the checkout is the ending, so it kind of wraps up everything that consumer experienced during the whole process. So if it was smooth, fast, and frictionless, chances are CSI scores from that particular customer are going to be much greater than if there was any hiccups along the process. And a lot of times those hiccups are caused by older, more commoditized payment solutions, which we talk about a lot, but it is actually still in the majority of dealers today.
Julie, you opened our eyes to this at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. This wasn't even a thing that we were aware of, but you put it on the radar and our audience saw it early, okay? And now you've got adopters left and right who are realizing this is so important to the entire process and it makes a huge impact. What can dealerships do to improve that final step of the process?
Well, and we talked about this when we discussed, the siloed experience last time. Is I think they just need to pay attention where the stop gaps happen, and if they have to use multiple systems to accomplish one to two things. And I think if a lot of times you have the folks who are the decision makers in their payment solutions actually seeing where these stop gaps happen, that's number one. And number two is just understanding that you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to have this burden that could be causing issues with your dealership employees. It could be causing issues, with relationships between departments and then ultimately the consumer. So just understanding that it's a process that can be improved. And I think that's huge.
Julie, that's such a great point. And I'm also thinking about, when customers are describing, what happened during the course of the service visit when they're speaking to family or friends or, spouses, recapping what happened. What do customers actually remember most about their visits?
They could remember the process being confusing. They could remember there being bottlenecks. They could remember like limited capacity, or they could remember vehicles moving faster. Everybody's focused on the result and the process was easy. And that's where you want consumers to be. So they're already scheduling their next visit.
Julie, let's talk a little about the operational side. Everyone's looking for efficiencies these days, especially in the service process. How does the checkout impact dealership efficiency in your mind?
Sure. So if you think about, like let's just say you're going to a restaurant, right? You've had a wonderful meal, Ted. You've, you finished your last glass of wine, maybe you had dessert, right? In the event it comes to the payment experience and it's clunky, slow, maybe there's problems with it where there were amounts that weren't correct. I mean, that in itself, because we're dealing with money, really causes friction with customers. I mean, just myself as well. I mean, well, I'm in the industry, so of course I pay attention to everybody I pay, but it's one of those things where it may not be as important if you have a hiccup in the write up or some of those other pieces. But when you're talking about money, there's a whole level of attention on this particular moment that I think a lot of people don't realize.
Julie, that's such an incredible insight. And, thinking about the big takeaway that a dealer listening today can implement, what would you say is that takeaway that is most important for dealerships today?
Just to understand how the entire experience works for the customer, whether you're in variable ops, fixed ops, whether this is the full communication up through accounting. Really, all of this workflow can, in fact, be gapless or frictionless, if you will. And in the dealership ecosystem, with many wonderful technologies out there, I mean, integrations left and right, if there's something that stops, it can really cause more problems than you see. And it can even cause inefficiencies within the dealership. So when you talk about hours of time, time is money. We always say that. But I think the big takeaway is just understand that there is technology out there that is innovative but easy to use and is designed for impacting a positive customer experience. And then at the end of the day, when the money comes through the bank and you're reconciling and there's no hiccups there, then now your departments are communicating well and everybody's just in a much better position.
And I think inherently over the years, Julie, the industry really wasn't paying attention the way it is now. Okay. And when they close the ticket, okay, that defines the whole experience. Um, as always, you've opened our eyes to a lot, especially here today on this conversation. Any other thoughts? Any other final thoughts from you?
Well, we work with all kinds of dealers from, your one location to 50 plus locations. And, they each have their own individual needs, if you will. And I think it's important, though, whether you're a small dealer or a large dealer, that you pay attention to this piece of it because it does have a big impact. I mean, not just on the process and the experience, but the economics, the profitability. There's so much that you can uncover by just looking a little under the hood, no pun intended, about what how you've been processing for however many years. And if your provider is in fact still doing whatever they can to make sure your dealership is successful and profitable as possible.
Julie, I think we're going to be seeing you on the road as well with the Fixed Ops
Yeah.
Roundtable coming up in the next couple months. And
Yes.
great to see your team and your team growing and this like organically becoming part of the conversation now as we go out to dealerships and talk about
Yeah,
this.
I'm pretty proud about that. It's lovely being in a position of mine where I can grow a team and they have such great passion about the industry as well. I mean, it's really something that I had hoped for in my career, and it's coming to life. So
Incredible information, Ted, as always. And Julie Douglas is really leading the way when it comes to these innovations that really help the dealership have better retention, better customer satisfaction, and better operational efficiency.
Dealer Pay is the platform for modern payment convenience. They are dealership specific. Julie knows this industry like nobody else, and she has championed this. And you could see the success as it rolls out. So, everybody, if you haven't already, visit dealerpay.com. Julie Douglas, you see her email scrolling at the bottom of the screen. That 314 number, that's your number, isn't it, Julie?
yes, sir. I mean, even as we grow, I'm still happy to pick up the phone and talk to dealers. I mean, it's important that they have an actual person that they can call, and if they've got problems or if they're, just have a question, we're more than happy to help, whether you do business with us or not.
And Sarah, it speaks a lot to the service that Dealer Pay provides our retailers. When Julie is that engaged, okay, with everything, and when there's an issue, she doesn't hesitate and get involved and get it handled, Sarah.
Julie is such an incredible resource for our dealership audience today, and definitely take her up on this because she is the leader in what she does.
Everybody, if you want to elevate that entire checkout process at your dealership, and it's time to do that, Julie Douglas at DealerPay is the person to speak to. Dealerpay.com. Julie, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you for all you do for the industry.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Julie Douglas from DealerPay here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.